Perhaps you're watching these nuggets and you were on the fence about cloud, but now you know you're heading to the cloud. Let's start to talk about some deployment steps, shall we? What kinds of things are you going to be worried about in your IT department when it comes to actually doing cloud technologies? One of the first things that we need to wrap our head around is that the locations of services are going to change most likely. Think about a firewall. With firewalls, we're so used to positioning those out in front of our physical machines. Now we need to start thinking about things that'll be up in the cloud. The firewall is up there virtually, protecting your virtual machines. Another big concern, as we know, is bandwidth. Whenever we mention bandwidth, recall that it's not just bandwidth for our network management traffic that we are using to manage the cloud. We also are very concerned with the user traffic that's going to be sending information to and from the cloud. So we have bandwidth concerns on multiple levels. And whenever we talk bandwidth, think latency. This is the delay that we're going to experience. We are concerned about this from a network management perspective, and we're also concerned about this when it comes to end user applications. We'll revisit this concept certainly when we discuss the potential risks of a cloud implementation. Firewalls and access controls are huge. We may have been dealing with access control internally, but once we're up in the cloud, we really want to ensure that we're the only ones that can get to certain key services. And as far as managing those services, we want to really lock it down so that we are the entities that are going to be interacting with the managed service. Remember, when it comes to access controls, we want to follow the least privilege concept that we would in a traditional environment for IT. We will probably create multiple user accounts for ourselves, and these different user accounts will have different levels of privileges, and we will make sure we're using the account that has the least possible level of privilege to get a certain job done that we're doing. That way, if this account were to be hacked, they can only do that least level of privilege that we were using at the time. We'll be definitely thinking about resiliency and redundancy a bit differently when we move to the cloud. The reason being is because in traditional environments, it may have been impossible for us to budget for redundant equipment and load balancers and fancy technologies like that. But when we move to the cloud, those things suddenly become affordable. So we will have backup VMs. We may have read-only replica copies of key database information. And that's some of the joys of moving to the cloud, taking advantage of such resiliency and redundancy that we might not have been able to implement in traditional network environments. In our cloud deployment too, we want to become used to these concepts, and we may not have been implementing those inside of our traditional IT infrastructure. I'll demonstrate automation in a moment. This is the ability to create scripts that will spin up the IT infrastructure. I mean, it really is amazing what's capable. Like I said, I'll give you an AWS demonstration momentarily. And this ties into the concept of self-service, where Amazon Web Services, as an example, will have all this amazing technology for you that you go in and implement with just the press of a button. You don't need to contact anyone at Amazon in order to implement that aspect of your infrastructure. Federation refers to security, and what we'll often do is we will call upon some third-party entity to help us with aspects of our authentication is a great example of Federation services. So an example would be maybe we have someone authenticate via Facebook, and then based on that authentication, they can get into some software as a service that we are utilizing. We are called the relying party in this type of infrastructure, where Facebook gives us the authentication that we as the relying party need for our web service. Automation capabilities are so appealing. Here we are in Amazon Web Services, and I'm at a service called CloudFormation, and notice we can go in and we can create a new stack. A stack is a series of resources that we are going to build from a script. Notice there are templates that you can use. I'll go in right here and say, I want to select a template for a WordPress blog, for instance. We'll choose Next after I select the template, and then we'll go in and give this stack a name. I'll just call this our sample stack. The database name will be WordPress DB that gets created. I will create a password for that database and a root password. So let me put those in quickly. And then a database user And then notice we select the instance type for the virtual machine that's going to host this WordPress site. And then we'll specify a key name for the key pair that we would use for access and what SSH IP address range could get to that EC2 instance. So we set these parameters. I'll give this a name key of my sample CF for CloudFormation, and we're ready to go. We'll choose next, and notice that we'll create this IT infrastructure utilizing this stack. It's that simple. So notice what's happening now. We are spinning up a virtual machine, installing WordPress on it, getting the web services running on that VM for WordPress, and we'll have a WordPress blog in seconds thanks to this design template inside of CloudFormation. If I want to delete this, when I delete the stack, it goes in and deletes all of the IT resources that it created for the stack. These levels of automation are one of the reasons that we love public cloud services. And let me finish off this demonstration by just showing you that there has been a completion of my stack. So the EC2 instance has been configured. The necessary security groups based on our parameters have been configured. The WordPress blog web server is ready to go. If I select our stack and go to the Actions menu and choose Delete Stack, as I indicated, when we delete the stack, we are going to delete all those resources that accompanied the stack. Something else that we experience when we deploy cloud services is that we really start working with more standards-based technologies. We'll have certain data formats that are standard. The way we store things will start being much more standardized. The images that we use for servers are going to be from virtual machine images. In the case of Amazon Web Services, we'll maybe use their flavor of Linux, or we'll use a Windows Server flavor. And it's going to be a standardized deployment of that software. We have application programming interfaces that are based on standards so that we can develop applications easily against our cloud resources. And when it comes to identity, we'll rely on standards like perhaps the Lightweight Directory Access Protocol for authentication services against our cloud services. So another great thing that we pick up with cloud technologies is the adherence to standards, because that's what the cloud is typically based on. So when we deploy the cloud, we're probably going to be doing things a bit differently than we're used to in our traditional IT infrastructures, but most of it is such great news, isn't it? We'll take advantage of standardization, automation, federation, new and improved services for many IT organizations today that will assist in getting anytime, anywhere access to those resources that our internal users or our external customers need. I hope this nugget was informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.